Some people live in your mind without asking. They don't try, they don't text, they don't explain themselves. They just appear, a glance, a line, a silence, and they stay. Not because they forced their way in, but because they left something behind that your mind can't put down. That's who you become. Not by chasing, not by pleasing, but by holding something the world rarely sees: depth. You don't need to be louder, you need to be stiller, sharper, unmoved. People remember presence, not noise. They remember tension, not performance. And the ones who stay on your mind, they never asked to be remembered. They just were, unlike anyone else. So if you want to stay with them after you're gone, stop trying to be seen and start becoming unshakably felt. Mystery isn't about hiding, it's about holding. You don't become unforgettable by being unreadable. You become unforgettable by being ungrabbable. The Stoics carried silence like armor, not to block connection, but to guard essence. You don't need to explain everything. You don't need to show everything. You just need to be something so grounded, so anchored, that people feel depth without being able to map it. Not aloof, not cold, just centered. The more you reveal, the more they categorize. The more you keep, the more they return, wondering. And that wondering, it's what keeps you living in the back of their mind. Don't act mysterious. Be so full, so whole, that even in your silence, they can't stop trying to figure out what's beneath it. The one who speaks less is heard more. Because in a world that overtalks, the one who pauses becomes powerful. The Stoics didn't rush to reply. They watched, they studied, they let silence stretch until it made the room uncomfortable. Then, they spoke. Once, clearly, without fluff. And that's what stayed. You want them to think about you? Stop filling the space. Start holding it. Speak only when it adds weight. Only when it carries truth. Only when it breaks the rhythm just enough to make their mind freeze for a second and play it back. Be the one who listens longer, observes deeper, responds cleaner. Because the one who doesn't speak much but says what no one else dares, that's the voice they'll hear long after the room empties. Presence loses power when it's too constant. If you're always there, you become part of the background. The Stoics understood rhythm. Not everything is on, not every flame burns without pause. Sometimes you pull back to let your absence speak, not as a game, not as punishment, but because stillness needs space to be felt. When you're always reachable, you become replaceable. But when you disappear just enough, they notice. The message stops, the voice fades, the silence grows loud, and in that quiet, you live again, stronger, clearer, heavier. Don't ghost, don't play. Just let your time be intentional. Because the most unforgettable ones aren't always around. They're just always felt when they're not. You don't owe them a play-by-play. You owe yourself progress. The Stoics didn't narrate their moves, they just moved, with clarity, with purpose, with zero need for permission or applause. You want to live in someone's head? Don't explain everything. Do something and disappear. Let them wonder, let them replay your silence. Let them try to decode what made you act, and vanish right after. Because the one who moves without needing to be understood becomes impossible to forget. Not because they were loud, but because they left a trace. No words, no reason, just impact. So take the step, then leave. And let your absence carry more questions than your presence ever could. The more you chase, the faster they forget you. Neediness evaporates presence. Desperation dissolves mystery. The Stoics didn't pursue validation. They became the kind of men you had to come back to because they never moved toward noise. You want someone to think of you? Then stand still when everything in you wants to chase. Let them go. Let them drift. Let the space stretch. Because what's real returns, and what doesn't was never yours to hold. Chasing makes you common. Stillness makes you haunting. The one who doesn't flinch, doesn't beg, doesn't reach, becomes unforgettable because they made peace with being alone before anyone left. So don't run, don't overcorrect, don't explain why you're worth it. Just stay, rooted, quiet, and let the weight of your absence teach them what presence never could. Composure is the most unsettling form of power. When chaos hits, they expect noise. When things break, they expect reaction. But when you stay still, when you blink slow, when your tone doesn't rise, they feel it. The Stoics didn't perform control. They were control. As people don't remember who screamed loudest. They remember who didn't flinch. And in every situation, the one who holds their posture wins more than the one who wins the moment. So when tension builds, slow down. When they push, don't move. Let them raise their voice. You lower your breath, let them throw chaos, you remain composed. Because silence under pressure is not absence, it's dominance. And that kind of calm, it's unforgettable. Not because it's flashy, but because no one else had it when it mattered most. Everyone thinks it, very few say it. You say it. The Stoics didn't speak often, but when they did, it cut. No filler, no softness, just truth, dropped like a stone in still water. And the echo, it stayed because most people live muted, afraid to say the thing that actually matters. But when you speak with precision, when you drop one line that pierces the moment, they remember. Maybe not today, but later, in silence, they'll hear you again. So stop talking to impress, speak to impact. Say what needs to be said once, clearly, without apology, and then let your silence do the rest. Because words have weight when they come from someone who doesn't throw them around. And the one sentence they couldn't answer will follow them long after you're gone. They push, they test, they wait for you to wobble. But you don't. You stand, quiet, still, unbothered. And that is what enters their mind. The Stoics weren't loud. They were unmovable. Not because they didn't feel, but because they refused to be shifted by emotion, by pressure, by noise. And that kind of stillness, it's unsettling. Because the world's used to reaction. It's addicted to response. But when you give them nothing, when you hold your ground while everything else shakes, you become unforgettable. The one who didn't flinch, the one who didn't explain, the one who didn't change tone just to be liked. You didn't win the argument, you won the room. Because when you're that rooted, they don't forget you. They relive you. Again and again. Not because you moved them, but because you never let them move you. The moment you let go is the moment they start to feel you. Not when you chase. Not when you explain. Not when you beg to be understood. But when you release, fully, finally, that's when your weight starts to drop in. The Stoics didn't cling. They detached, not out of pride, but out of clarity. They knew. They knew what's meant to stay, stays. What's meant to go, goes. And what's meant to remember, will. You want to live in someone's mind? Don't force it. Be so whole that even your absence feels more real than anyone else's presence. Let them walk. Let them laugh. Let them forget for a while. Then, one quiet moment, your voice comes back, your silence returns, your energy reappears, and they'll realize you never tried to stay, but you never left either. Because the ones who truly let go leave the deepest imprint. Not by grabbing tighter, but by walking away without looking back. They don't force it. They don't try. They just pass through, say one thing, hold one glance, leave one pause, and somehow you're never quite the same. You don't remember what they wore. You remember how the room felt when they went quiet. You don't recall their story. You recall the moment you realized they weren't like anyone else. The Stoics never begged for memory. They became unshakable in silence. And let that silence do the echoing. You want to live in someone's mind? Then stop performing. Stop repeating. Stop pushing to be seen. Become the one who holds presence without needing to hold attention. Become the pause, the stillness, the line that didn't need to land loud because it never left. And when they try to forget you, they won't. Not because you tried, but because you didn't. And that is what makes you unforgettable.